Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We're coming to you live from the United Nations in New York City, New York at 1 UN Plaza. We're here talking with leaders of the African continent from representatives of all 54 nations, as we're calling it Africa Fast Forward. 54 nations, great diversity, huge natural resources, and a very youthful population looking and seeking to join the League of Nations, and yet not just to join, but actually provide leadership for the League of Nations across the globe. And sitting right beside me is someone who is very actively involved, has been for a number of years. This is Joyce Rogers Halliday. She is a founder and executive director of the International African Association of NGOs and also the host of the First Ladies Forum. Joyce, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's just exciting what you're doing as far as the AAN and also the First Ladies Forum. Tell us about a little bit of both of those.
Well, the International Association of African NGOs started in 2013, and the theme for the organization basically is to empower NGOs in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. That's the essence of it. So we provide capacity building, training, education, networking, and we have conferences, international conferences that would help them to partner with other organizations globally. So also to help them to be globally competitive in serving the various communities that they serve. So definitely we're proud of what we're doing across the globe.
Now, looking at the First Ladies Forum, tell us a little bit about that, the importance of it, and then we're going to get into the essence of some of the work that you're actually doing.
Right. We just figure that the First Ladies are close enough to the grassroots. They have sensitivity to the pulse of the citizens. So we said to ourselves, they're the right vessel to communicate the messaging regarding citizens' engagement, regarding accountability, regarding transparency. And at the end of the day, it all boils down to ending poverty, at least alleviating poverty in the regions that we serve.
Well, I tell you, it's really exciting. When we talk about First Ladies, you think of these are the wives of the presidents across the continent, but actually you've expanded on that topic where it's the wives of governors, of mayors, of county managers, and others. Why did you expand this First Ladies concept to go beyond just the First Ladies of the nation?
Well, Sam, the First Ladies of the nations are extremely busy. They have their agenda. But the state First Ladies are close enough to the citizens, of their state. Again, like I said, they are more in tune to feel the pulse of the citizens of the state. They hear their stories. They hear their concerns. So they are I think that the perfect vehicle to engage in terms of trying to find out what the needs of their various communities are. And that's why we expanded to include the state First Ladies. They play a vital role, in what we do.
Well, I think it's exciting. And also, too, is just like with the presidents and the leaders of these NGOs, they're actually living in the community. It's not like they're standing apart. They're in the local communities. Tell us about some of the thrust, the focus that you have through the AAN.
Well, our focus, there are three basically factors that we're looking at. We're looking at citizens' engagement, which is not just as an NGO executive, how do you engage the communities that you serve? What do you do with the feedback that you're getting from those communities? I mean, are they involved in your policy development? Do you engage them in the activities, in developing, the community activities? Because then they get ownership and they feel that they're part of this project, so I'm going to make it happen. But as opposed to going in there and telling them this is what you need to do. Then you find out that there's, you go through problems when that happens. It's important to engage your citizens when you come into a community. And also, it's also, how do you engage the government? Because for your project to be sustainable, you have to have the government involved. So we have to find a way to engage the government as well as the grassroots, your citizens that you focus on, to have a sustainable development project.
So what you're saying then is you're actually the bridge between the central government or all levels of government within these various 54 nation states on the African continent and the citizens. And then what you're doing is these touchstones, these precious touchstones in the area are the leaders of the NGOs and the local governments, right?
Exactly, Sam. That's just, a part of what we do. When we started attending meetings at the World Bank, I said to myself, we're having all these discussions, there's a missing link. The leaders are not here. And all of our discussions are centered around the leaders. So we started as IAN to invite leaders into the conversation. And it's been brilliant because now the leaders are understanding that NGOs can play a vital role in economic development. You can use them as monitoring tools for your projects on the ground. You can use them as communication vehicles to the citizens when you want to make a policy change in your country or your nation. So there have been great examples of, the role that NGOs play in economic development in, every nation, particularly in Africa. So we're very proud of what they're doing. Our members are doing great work in terms of, engaging both their citizens and their governments.
Well, one of the things that's really very much appreciated about what you're doing with IAN is this collaboration that you have with so many NGOs across the whole continent with all levels of governments. But this is really part of the nature of most Africans, regardless of what country they live in, is that there's this whole thing of family, of collaboration, of working together. Tell us a little bit about that feeling and how that feeling then is brought into the IAN, and then in turn how that's put back out so that they feel like that they really are part of the solutions and that the future really belongs to them.
Sam, I am so happy when President Obama had the African Leadership Summit. After that meeting, it's like something happened. And the African leaders have now understood that for Africa to be successful, to be a great continent, we now have to come together. We can't fight each other anymore. We have to come together to build a nation. And it's not just the government, it takes the citizens, civil society, private sector, and government to build a sustainable economy. And that messaging is what IAN is also trying to communicate, the concept of shared value. So because one thing with the African continent, a lot of the citizens look up to the government for everything. The government can only do but so much. The government is there to provide a conducive environment for you to thrive, but not to meet your every need. So the messaging needs to be that citizens, private sector, government, and also businesses need to come together to build a sustainable economy. That's how great nations were built. United States was built by SMEs, small businesses, people using their creative ideas to start up businesses and employ other citizens. So that message needs to resonate in Africa, and I'm glad that it has started. And that's why you see that boldness, that courage, and that confidence that we're heading in the right direction.
Well, the whole thing about this is that the population on the African continent is becoming, in a sense, younger and younger. It's not aging like you have in Europe and North America, even some cases in Asia. And so you have a very dynamic population that's moving through. And the interesting part about it is they're leapfrogging across the legacy systems that you have, and now they're embracing wholesalely IT, information technology, the most advanced internet systems, software, and all those things. Tell us a little bit about that, and what is this dynamic that you feel like that needs to be honored as far as this youthful population that's coming?
Right. For instance, in my country, Nigeria, the previous president started a grant for young people, gave them a voice for the first time, gave women a voice for the first time. So there's that courage, that confidence that's now out there. And they're emboldened that they're able to do, these things, achieve great things if they're given just a little bit of chance to do that. And that's what's happened across the continent, not just in Nigeria, but globally. So now you see young people with talents going out there and being creative and developing IT in the IT sector, and even in agriculture, in power. They're all over the place, using their creative minds to develop and create employments for other youths. So that's a great thing.
We always run out of time every time we get together. Joyce, tell us briefly about women and young girls and their involvement as far as the future of Fast Forward Africa.
Without women and girls, there cannot be economic development. You cannot eradicate poverty. Say that again. I have to say that, Sam. Yes. Without women and girls, there cannot be economic development. Sustainable economic development. They play a vital role to develop it. And that's a fact.
Now, looking at what you're doing as far as the IAAN and also the First Ladies Forum, because this is both of these are ongoing activities. Yes. Tell us what your plans are, say, over the next 5, 10, 15 years as you look at the continent, you look at the support systems outside of the continent, the United States, Canada, Mexico, many other countries. What do you see?
Well, I see a bridging between NGOs and the government. It would be so beautiful if they both understand that there's opportunity for greatness if they come together. The NGOs need the government for sustainability. And the NGOs have to learn not to look at the government as the enemy, to embrace the government and find a channel of communication to have a win-win situation. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that you serve that matter. And if you don't have that communication channel that's open to the government, then you cannot be sustained. It's impossible. Because at the end of the day, the government makes the decision of what happens in every nation. So we encourage our members to have a civil relationship with your government so that you can have that communication channel open. A good example is, a friend of mine from South Sudan. Gotta be quick. Yeah, and we had to basically communicate that you can't keep fighting. You have to make a way. No matter how bad the leader is, he's a human being. He has, he's sensitive, and you can get to him and, make sure that he understands your point of view and what you're trying to do. So that's a good thing.
What is going to happen with Joyce next 5 years? 5 seconds.
Oh my God. Well, we're fighting with the United Nations and the World Bank to alleviate extreme poverty. So I'm hoping in 2013 that will be done.
Thank you. This is Joyce Rogers Holliday, Founder, Executive Director, International Africa Association of NGOs, and host of First Ladies Forum. Thank you for being with us as we come to you from the United Nations in New York City, New York, and looking around the globe and looking particularly at the African continent, Africa Fast Forward.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, this is Dr. Sam Hancock of Emerald Planet TV, coming to you live from the United Nations in New York City, New York at 1 UN Plaza. We're looking at the continent of Africa, all 54 nations, as we call this program Africa Fast Forward. There's much happening, a continent of 54 nations, a population base going to 1 billion, and unlimited natural resources. But how do you tap those resources and energize the people as becoming younger and younger all the time? And as we're looking forward to the future, we have sitting with us His Excellency Joseph K. Ruto. He's the Deputy Governor of Nakuru County in the Republic of Kenya. And Deputy Governor, I've actually been through your area several different times. It is most beautiful. Tell us a little bit about your county.
My county is Nakuru County in the Republic of Kenya. It is one of the 47 counties that we have in Kenya, and it is the fourth largest in Kenya.
Now, what you were telling me that this is actually becoming one of the real hot spots as far as economic development, also the expression as far as environmental quality across not only Kenya, but also East Africa. Tell us a little bit about that activity.
Yes, Nakuru is the fastest growing town in East Africa and Africa as a whole. And it is also the source of River Nile because of the Mau forest, which is the largest forest so far I can say the largest rivers that feed River Nile originate from Kenya, Nakuru in particular.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic because, you know, there's movies about finding the source of the Nile and all these other things. And actually, you fellows have been there for thousands of years in that area. And tell us a little bit about some of the natural scenery that people would see, you know, about the lake and the various birds and other wildlife.
Yes, Nakuru is famous for flamingos. If you visit us in Nakuru, you will see a lot of flamingos. And I can say flamingos belong to Nakuru. If there is one anywhere, that means it will come back home one time. We are also, if you visit us, you will see the geothermal. We are rich in electricity generating because of the extinct volcanoes that were in Nakuru, Menengai, and also Olkaria. You also visit us, you will see the national parks like Lake Nakuru. We have the Hell's Gate and so many others. So welcome to Nakuru and see for yourself.
Now, this is something that we were talking about earlier, and you shared with me about all this renewable energy that's coming out of there as far as the solar, all the other types of energy sources that you have there. Tell us a little bit about some of the different renewable sources that you have that's actually now feeding into the grid for Kenya and East Africa.
In Kenya, we are the largest producer of this green energy, and we feed the grid so that in Kenya, people can get cheap electricity. And if you want to start any industry, you don't have to go very far. You don't have to transport energy. You just get it within in Nakuru.
Now, looking at what is going on as far as the economic development, so you have the source of energy, which is a great pride, but also you're actually selling that, exporting it not only to Kenya, but through the grid and East Africa. What is the environment there as far as investments? And what kind of investments have you been attracting, say, over the last 5 or 10 years?
I can talk about 3 years because we've been in existence as a county government for now 2.5 years. And what we have is agriculture. We are adding value to our production, food production. And also we have conferencing facilities, and especially in Naivasha area. What we also have is we have industries for making things like we want to make potatoes, to put some value into our potatoes. And I think that's all I can say for now.
Yeah. Well, there's many things. Maize that you have in that area, and some other, and I think also, do you have tea or coffee within Nakuru?
Yeah, we have very little tea around Olengurwani. That is Kuresoi South. That is where we have some tea, and then some little tea also in Bahati. Coffee we have around Bahati. In fact, Nakuru is well endowed with all types of climate, from the dry areas up to the wettest areas. So tea we have. What we don't grow in Nakuru, I can say, is coconut. Otherwise, every crop favors Nakuru.
Well, reason I brought up about the tea and coffee, because I actually visited some of the plantations you have, and actually some of the processing facilities. So again, it goes back, Mr. Deputy Governor, about you're adding value to the products that you have. Tell us about some of the industries that you actually have in Nakuru County.
Yeah, some industries like the creamery industry, milk. We are packaging milk. We produce milk and then we package. We also have industries like the flour. We grow flowers and we export. We are the largest in the county. Actually, we export about 98% of the flowers that come from Kenya comes from Nakuru. And other industries we have, I've talked about milk. I've also talked about tea. I'm also talking about potatoes. Yes.
These are all very important. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're doing in your county that you consider best practices that can be used in other parts of Kenya, other areas of East Africa, but across the whole of Eastern Africa.
What we do right now is we are developing talents of the youth. We are famous in sports, athletics. So we have special centers. We call centers of excellence. And that's where we have given priority. We have theaters also. We are encouraging actually to support the youth. We have also, for women, we have started some women groups, and we support them a lot. We give them some finances to start cooperatives. We borrow money, and we have what we call table banking. We are encouraging them to be self-sustaining. Yes.
I tell you, this is just really fantastic, all the things that's going on within your county. It's very progressive and a very beautiful area. Now, looking at the future of the county, what do you see for the growth of, say, the renewable energy, agriculture of any kind, manufacturing? What do you see, say, over the next 5, 10, 15 years that may be growth areas for the county?
What we want to do is, one, we have a problem in challenges as far as transportation of our agricultural products is concerned. So we want to make these roads motorable throughout the year so that we can remove our crops to the market. We also have challenges like health. In health, that is where we require to do more so that we can lead healthy people. And also the cancer is now becoming a killer disease. So we want to get this, if we can get machines, and then it will help us a lot. So I think that's what I can say for now.
Well, I think that's very aware. We're almost running out of time. So looking at the last subject, education. I know you talked about the youth, involving them in the sports, but also high technology, IT, the internet types of related businesses. What are you doing to encourage more girls to be involved and other activities?
In fact, Nakuru town is it was the first county to have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, in the whole country. So we are encouraging the youth and the government of Nakuru. What we have done is we have given bursary, or we give scholarships. For total orphans, we give full scholarship. For those who are partially orphans, we give them some bursary. We have give every ward 2 million for every ward, so that they can support these students. We have also what we call governor scholarship, and the governor scholarships can sponsor somebody fully. And we encourage girls to go to school. And if somebody doesn't take a child to school, it is an offense. And I cannot say it is only Nakuru; it is throughout the country. Somebody can be taken to court and be charged.
So
now, if somebody messes up with a young girl, they are in prison for life.
this is a very serious matter. We've just about run out of time. And so looking at your job as deputy governor, we only have a few seconds left. What do you see?
I can assure Nakuru people that we are out there to support you. We shall deliver on our pledges. We want to make sure that everybody earns a living, and let's go to our farms and produce crops, and we shall support you and support us too.
Well, Deputy Governor Ruto, thank you very much for being with us. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching the Emerald Planet as we look around the African continent on Africa Fast Forward.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We're coming to you live from the United Nations in New York City, New York, from One UN Plaza. And we're looking at the African continent, all 54 nations, and at this time, especially Malawi, a very dynamic country. And we're honored to have the former president of this beautiful country. Her name is Her Excellency Joyce Banda, former Republic of Malawi, and the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation for the Republic. And Your Excellency, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we're really glad to have you here. And I know that you provided strong leadership for your country, and now you have your own foundation. But tell us a little bit about the country of Malawi.
Yeah, the country of Malawi is situated in the southern part of Africa, southeast, and we border the countries of Tanzania, Mozambique, and Zambia. So we're the little stretch in the middle. We are 2 hours away from Johannesburg. It's a country of 15 million people. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, that's it's in a very strategic location because you have these three societies around you, very dynamic, and yet you're very independent. Tell us a little bit about the reasons why that your nation can be very strong, very independent, but still collaborate with all of your neighbors.
Yeah, the nation of Malawi is one that historically was part of the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. So if we had stayed together, it means Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi would have been one country. And so there's a lot of history there about how the three countries work together. Zimbabwe provided the industry, Zambia provided most of the raw materials, and Malawi provided raw materials and labor. And so you find that there are a lot of, maybe almost 3 million Malawians in Zimbabwe, and a lot more in Zambia, and a similar number in South Africa. So strategically, we are a nation that has roots, that has wings, that have spread to all our neighbors in the SADC region.
Now, the thing about this is that I'm sitting beside the former president of a nation on the African continent, and yet the United States has never had a female president. Tell us a little bit about the dynamic of, and you're not the only female president in the African continent. Tell us about your reason for running for this office and some of the challenges of being president of a country on the African continent.
To start with, I stood for the position of vice president. In the country where I come from, a vice president has to be elected along with the president. So in 2009, I stood with the candidate for the presidency in that country. I'm not the only one on the continent of Africa. I'm not the first female president. I am the second. And now we have a third president of the Central African Republic. I would like to believe that America should have achieved this before. And that's why it is my hope that in the very near future, we shall have a female president. But I also would like to raise an alarm. I would like to mention here that it is my opinion and I hope that I'm entitled to this opinion, that women's leadership is under attack right now. We went to Beijing 20 years ago. In fact, we are in it at a time when we are taking stock of the achievements since Beijing. We had agreed we would go back home and take leadership positions. We believed that it is only when we are sitting at the policy formulating tables that we shall push issues that negatively affect women and children. So we agreed that we will go to parliament, we will take leadership positions. And we did. And we went back home, we took those leadership positions. But I think the greatest mistake, and that I regret so much about what we didn't do well enough in 1995, when all of us met in Beijing and made these decisions and drew a beautiful platform for action, is that we left our men behind. That we went to Beijing and the men that accompanied us were completely outnumbered. And what the challenges that we faced was that when we came back, it was during implementation now, we needed the same men to help us to implement this. And so therefore, we intended to make sure that we didn't intimidate our men who were also supposed to be part of the solution. So these are the lessons that we have learned. I was very fortunate. And when you go back to Malawi, you find that when I came in, the economy of the country had grown by 1.8%. When I left, it had grown by 6.3%. When I came in, there was no fuel for a day. Even fuel to take me to the funeral of the late president who died had to be donated by the president of Zambia. When I left, we were even building a reservoir for 2 months. When I came in, there was no money. There was money for a week for our import cover. When I left, there was 3.9 months. When I came in, there was no food for 2 million people. When I left, there was 3.9 million metric tons, 1 million overproduction. But I would like to say I owe all this to men and women that formed a team to stand by me and with me, to support me, to achieve all that I achieved. So I have always said, people have asked me, what were the challenges of being a woman and being a president? I unfortunately don't have that bad experience because I was fortunate. I was my country's gender minister, Minister of Women and Children, and I was foreign minister. I was vice president, and then I was president of the country. So I have always asked myself, maybe by the time I became president, maybe the country was accustomed to seeing a woman in that leadership position. So I didn't have the challenges that my friends talk about. I am forever grateful to God and to everybody else for the team that he gave me of both men and women. Because when I came in, what I did was to ensure that I appoint fellow women to very senior positions, not as window dressing, but on merit. So the first time Malawi had a chief justice that was a woman. The first time Malawi had a solicitor general that was a woman. The first time Malawi had the head of the whole civil service that was a woman. 2 deputy governors of the Reserve Bank, deputy inspector general of police, 8 district commissioners, all women, but standing side by side with their male counterparts and working together to achieve a lot. And I shall forever be grateful and proud that the records are there to be seen about what we were able to achieve.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I was just smiling at your assistant that's here saying, this is really fantastic. And thank you for sharing all this. But the core of all this is that your whole focus, not just that, women and young ladies need to move forward and this division, but it had to be a cooperative spirit that the men and women, the young in schools have to learn to collaborate. They have to study together. They have to learn to communicate together. So in education, I know this is something you're very passionate about, and you've worked very hard to have a very high-class educational system in Malawi. Tell us a little bit about this collaboration that you're bringing about in the schools between the men, women, teachers, administrators, but also the youth themselves.
Yeah, I think for me, it is not only in education, but the holistic approach that we all must take in order to accelerate development and the transformation of the lives of both men and women, particularly at grassroots level. So for me, I would find it extremely difficult to discriminate, to say it's only women or it's only men, but men and women working together. And so I believe that you will agree with me that you cannot make progress if you are trying to walk with one leg. You need to have together men and women working together. In any case, people need to accept that we are the majority. So there's no way we are going to be a special interest group. No, women must never be called that again. We are part of the solution, part of the problem, part of the solution. And I say part of the problem because men and women must all take responsibility for the slow pace at which women have been liberated. Why do I say this? Because I am a mother. And I know that as an African mother, as African mothers, we have a role to play. We have the influence to influence our children to grow up, particularly the boys, to grow up to be gender-sensitive boys. But we are the ones who tell them, you can't come in the kitchen, you can't cry like a girl. We buy them cars and we buy the girls doors and we keep the girl in the kitchen and the boy becomes a king, the girl child becomes his servant. This boy, when he grows up to be a man, it is the women who will first say, he's a cruel man, he's a monster. We have a role to play and we must take responsibility because we are part of the problem, because we are the ones who are building those monsters. So men and women are the solution to, they must work together.
Absolutely. I'll say amen to that. That's absolutely fantastic. And in my family, I had a great-grandmother, 2 grandmothers, and a mother that were all surrounding me, you know, all through my formative years. And so you learn to give them respect. Learn to listen. Absolutely. Being able to sit with you, it's absolutely fantastic. We've almost run out of time. So what do you see for your country, say, for the next 5, 10, or 15 years? And we have to be very quick. We only have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, what I see for my country is prosperity. What I see for my country is a country that will move together into the future. We are redefining his leadership. I'm looking forward to a leadership that puts the people first, because leadership is a love affair. You'll fall in love with the people, and the people must fall in love with you.
That's absolutely fantastic, and that's something we want to leave with all this. Well, I am very honored to be sitting beside Her Excellency Joyce Banda, who is the former president, Republic of Malawi, and also the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation for the Republic itself. And it's just absolutely fantastic for you to be with us and to share this. And thank you, dear viewers, for listening to us as we talk about Africa Fast Forward. Thank you.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit ASHA.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet TV. We're coming to you live from One UN Plaza at the United Nations in New York City, New York. And thank you for being with us as we're looking at the African continent, all 54 nations, but specifically the country of Malawi. This sitting right beside me is a very important lady. This is Her Excellency Joyce Banda, who is the former president of the Republic of Malawi and also the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation for the Republic. Also, I have to recognize with great pleasure our special guest, Richard W. Lewis, who is the president of Agri Marketing LLC, and Dr. Jose C. Rios, who is CE, lead project manager, Union Carbide Corporation, retired, a professor, and involved in many other high technology activities. But, Madam President, thank you, and welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we had a very delightful chat about your country and all the wonderful things going on, the leadership, the work between men and women, the youth in schools, how they work together. They must communicate as for a brighter future for your country, the whole African continent. But also, you have formed a very dynamic foundation. Tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Initially, from the year 1987, I decided that I was going to form an association of businesswomen. It occurred to me that the economic empowerment of women is key to social and political empowerment. And for me, the face of poverty were women. So what do I do to contribute to their advancement? And particularly, I was focusing on those that are locked up in abusive situations. I have been very, very fortunate that all the things that I have pushed in my life have emerged from personal experience. When I was growing up, I had a child. When I was growing up, I had a friend who was in the village, and I lived in town. And I used to go to the village every weekend because my grandmother demanded that my father must send me to the village so she can teach me all about village life. I had a very good friend in the village. She was brighter than me. She went to the village school. We finished the same year. We were both selected to the best girls' secondary schools. Chris went one term and didn't return because the family could not raise the $6 she required to continue. As I speak to you now, Chris is where I left her. And for me, that was the first time I brushed with the injustice in this world, because it doesn't make sense that somebody who was a friend of mine, who was brighter than me, has ended up not pursuing a dream, not bringing out her very best because she didn't go to school. And I decided that for as long as I live, I shall ensure that I send as many girls as possible to school. The second is maternal mortality, maternal health. For me, in 1984, I went into hospital on January 23rd to give birth to my fourth-born child and suffered what they call postpartum hemorrhage. I was bleeding to death. And the only reason why I'm sitting here, doctor, talking to you is because my husband had a friend who was a trained doctor, and he came and saved my life. And the next 2 days, everybody said, "How come you're still alive?" And I woke up I decided to look closely at what was happening to those that were not as fortunate as me, that were giving birth in the rural areas. To cut a long story short, at that point, 1,200 women were dying giving birth per 100,000. And for me, it's not acceptable. I should not sit here and accept that a woman can die giving life. So it has been my lifetime passion to make sure that whatever it is that I can do, I must do. So the time I was president, I established, before I chose a cabinet, I established what I called the Presidential Initiative for Maternal Health. And through that initiative, in the 2 years that I was president, we built 20 holding shelters at hospitals to allow women to walk to the hospital 2 weeks before and stay close to trained personnel to make sure that when that day comes, they are in safe hands. And we were able to reduce maternal death from 675 per 100,000 to 460. And the African Union gave us an award for that work. And even the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health, that is based here in the US, and I am a proud member of that council, recognized our work and gave us an award. So therefore, the final one is gender-based violence. I was married for 10 years and remained in an abusive marriage, and then was brave enough to take my 3 children and run. And I know that on the continent of Africa, socially, we will have to be married. And there are so many locked up in abusive situations because they can't run. And I made up my mind that I was going to do all I can to make sure that I'm very watchful, I'm attentive, I'm alert to any abuses that are inflicted on women. The final one was from personal experience as a woman leader. I have been fortunate or unfortunate in my country that I've been faced this, faced that. And along the way, I have gained experience. I have drawn lessons that I know that I can support other women. Women are supposed to be given an opportunity to lead as well. So that is the basis of the Joyce Banda Foundation. I decided when I received the Africa Prize for Leadership for the Sustainable End of Hunger that I shared with President Chissano of Mozambique. Because of the work I had done in trying to economically empower my fellow women, to ensure that they have the power to walk out of abusive situations, to make sure that they contribute towards the household, to make sure that not only do they alleviate poverty, but they also gain respect at household level. But then working out in the villages, doing that work, before I received the award, it became very clear that most villages, women were there, the men were in town. They were doctors, they were teachers. When resources were low at household level, the girls didn't go to school, the boys went to school. So for me, the Joyce Banda Foundation is what I formed with the $50,000 that I was given by the Hunger Project here in New York. I took that home and established the Joyce Banda Foundation. My aim was to take a holistic approach, and I kept saying this for 15 years. And I believe truly that as we now launch the Sustainable Development Goals that we are launching this week in New York, this shall be taken into consideration, that when we go into the communities, if it is indeed our intention to transform those villages, we need to take a holistic approach. What do I mean? That is the formula of the Joyce Banda Foundation. To get into the village and ensure that there's income going into the household. Because when there's income going into the household, the girls in that household will then go to school. And that is pillar 1 is the income. And for me, I insist on agribusiness. Because we women are natural producers. So we produce people, we produce crops, we produce everything. The second is a pillar is therefore education. The third pillar is maternal health and HIV/AIDS. Maternal health, because my research has shown that these girls, when they don't go to school, they get married early and they are giving birth early. So early marriage, early motherhood is resulting into early death. And so maternal health, maternal mortality, and HIV and AIDS is the third pillar. The fourth pillar is leadership. For me, I am a living example of what you can do when you get into leadership. When we women get into leadership, let me tell you this, we make good leaders, we make better leaders, we are risk takers, we pursue peace, contact and dialogue, we avoid conflict, We pay attention to small projects and large projects. We are servant leaders. We encompass all, and we encourage and promote teamwork. We believe that leadership is a love affair. We fall in love with the people, and the people fall in love with us. And so, for me, leadership is my fourth pillar. And the last one is that of rights. I believe that women must have the right to make an income and control it. Girls have a right to go to school. Women have the right to have safe delivery, and women have the right to participate in leadership and stay in leadership. So therefore, that's what the Joyce Banda Foundation is. People have asked me, it's too much. It's a little bit bits and pieces. No, when they listen to me carefully, and if you, Dr. Ware, was listening to me, I'm talking about the same household. I'm saying that in that household, if there's income, the girls will go to school and they will not die giving birth. And then if you have leadership at grassroots, leadership in the boardroom, leadership in cabinet, leadership in the parliament, leadership in the state house, it all works for the better. It works better for the women.
Well, this is something I first went on the continent in 1974. And we started working with the country of Kenya, and of course it's expanded over the whole continent, all 54 nations, collaborating with the African Union and other organizations that are working on that. And one of the things that I said in those very early years, and I'm still saying today, is the backbone of the economy, environmental protection, and also future development are the females within the society. And that's why I was very excited about the fact that we could host you and being on the Emerald Planet TV. Now, looking at this collaboration, the females being involved, you talked about the classroom, the boardroom, the parliament, all these other kinds of things. Going back to this notion of education, what are they learning in the schools that not only give them the basic skills, but also vocational education so they can actually earn a job, but at the same time, we're running out of time. Leadership, I don't think we'll have time to do all that. But looking at your foundation, about 30 seconds only, what do you see for the next 5, 10, 15 years for the Joyce Banda Foundation?
I have found that using this holistic approach, going into the community, and in 5 years' time looking back and finding that the women are engaged in business, the youth are doing business, there's a school, there's a maternity wing, there's a clinic, there's leadership that transforms a community better. And that's what I see in 15 years.
Fantastic. This is Her Excellency Joyce Banda, the former president, the Republic of Malawi, and also the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation in the Republic. Thank you, Madam President, for being with us. We really appreciate your energy and the direction, the leadership that you've given for your country, but also the African continent. And thank you, dear viewers, for being with us as we look around the globe. Africa Fast Forward. Thank you from Emerald Planet TV.